Yeah, we are live on this Sunday morning. As my boy Simon Salikas likes to say, welcome to the mother of all game days, the updated version. Friday was the mother of all game days. Mission accomplished. The Montreal Canadiens officially back into this series with the Washington Capitals, hosting Game 4 live from the Bell Center at 6:30 tonight. Please take note of the different start time for the game. Yeah, 6:30 as the NHL gets going on a very busy Sunday afternoon. We say good morning to Marco D'Amico from RG Media. Welcome to the mother of all game days. Marco, what's good, brother?
Oh man, today is going to be fun, isn't it?
Oh, can't wait. As I mentioned, when we look at what's going on the NHL docket, of course, we look at the results from yesterday, where the Tampa Bay Lightning are back in their series with the Florida Panthers. The Vegas Golden Knights in a teeter-totter game. They're even Stevens 2-2. How about this? The Ottawa Senators, the one team that couldn't close the gap, finally did on the Jake Sanderson overtime winner. How much before we get into the weeds here on game day, Habs and Capitals at 6:30 tonight? Can I get a reaction on the Battle of Ontario? What do you make of this 4 games in so far?
Uh yeah, I one of the things I've noticed is, I thought that series was going to be a little bit more physical than what we're seeing right now. You're seeing it be a little chippy, but like it's not the same level of physicality, for example, that Washington was bringing in game 1 and 2, where the Canadians brought in game 3. But what I
Yeah,
do like is the speed of that game is just off the charts. The pacing is just incredible. I really liked what I was seeing from Mitch Marner out there. Matthew Knies is just a playoff beast for the Leafs. And I'm for all the playoff guys and drafting Brady Tkachuk to be this crazy kind of playoff performer. It was Jake Sanderson for me that really stole the show, really just establishing himself as one of the premier two-way young defensemen in the NHL. And power to the Ottawa Senators, man. It's not easy being down 3-0 in overtime. When you I pretty yeah, they had the lead. It was 3-2. So to have to like come back from that and recoup from that in the third period and then into overtime at home with all that pressure. Good for them. Absolutely good for them.
as we take a look at what's going on the NHL docket, don't forget we have game day, obviously, with the Montreal Canadiens being slight home underdogs tonight against the road favorite Washington Capitals. You can have some fun with this game at BetOnline, betonline.ag. And guess what? One lucky winner is going to get $50 free cash deposited into their account. Pretty simple stuff, right? Make sure you have your betonline.ag account up, because we're going to transfer free $50 into your betonline.ag account. Marco, pretty simple stuff, right? We're just looking for the first goal scorer from the Montreal Canadiens tonight. So why don't you jump in the chat? Why don't you throw out, who do you think is going to score the first goal for the Montreal Canadiens tonight? And then we'll do a draw and hand out the $50 on Monday's live show. Sound like a plan to you?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan to me.
So get ready, as we mentioned off the top here. There's lots going on the NHL board. Starting at 1:00, it's Winnipeg at St. Louis. Then at 3:30, Carolina and New Jersey. Montreal and Washington at 6:30 tonight. The late game is LA at Edmonton at 9:30. All those games up right now at betonline.ag. So as we say good morning to everyone, proud members of the show weighing in this morning, as Ryerson mentioned, the Senators' overtime victory to stay alive in that series ruined his parlay. So let's get going with what I think, is it too dramatic to talk about the turning point of this series? Could it be the bench brawl, the infamous bench brawl of the second period from Friday's Game 3 win, 6-3 over Washington to keep the Canadiens alive in this series? Was that a turning point that the Montreal Canadiens can look back on and say, we were physical, we answered the bell, we were the bullies, we pushed them around, we are now very much in this series?
Yeah, I don't know if they were necessarily the bullies, but they definitely stood up to the Washington Capitals, and I think that was key. Just showing them that they couldn't intimidate their young goaltender, and I think that was key, right? When you see Dovish going back to the bench and then getting swarmed by Capitals, and the Canadians taking no prisoners, and Josh Anderson going to war with Tom Wilson, I think at this point in time, the Washington Capitals know they can't just rough up the Canadiens, there will be an answer. Whether that's having Arbor Jackeye in the lineup, I thought he played an overall good game. Whether it's Josh Anderson, crushing guys along the boards, or overall just, general team toughness. Emil Heineman was a lot more physical. We know that he got tapped on the back to give a little bit more. And then you're looking at other guys that, you expect physicality from. Juraj Slafkovsky admitted it as well, that he was, this is the style he wanted to play. And then there's more to come. So those are the guys that just need to continue to use their body. They were brought in to use their physical gifts to, make space and cause ruckus. And that's exactly what they did. I think the key in this situation is going to be staying disciplined and continuing that relentless forecheck. And I think those are the two elements that, we talk about the Canadiens' physicality in Game 3. That relentless forecheck, all those forced turnovers that the Canadiens did, most notably Jacob Chikrin on the Nick Suzuki power play goal. Like, that was Juraj Slafkovsky relentlessly chasing him and forced Carlson to turn the other way, and there's Nick Suzuki that takes the loose puck and scores off a backhand. That's the kind of play they need to be. They need to be jumping off the faceoff. They need to be exploding into open ice. And I think if they can continue to do that, this is a team that at this moment is asking themselves a lot of questions.
Now, this is front of mind, obviously, with what transpired in Game 3. Logan Thompson almost gets decapitated by Dylan Strome in a collision at the net. He leaves the game. Sam Montembeault, leg injury, cameras catch his trapper hand, touching his hamstring, leaves the game. Dovish comes in. No update yet. There's been no call-up, obviously. Wondering what exactly is happening. As we know, the Laval Rocket are getting set to play with Cleveland in their first-round series. The Laval has a bye. They're waiting until next week. So it's a short metro ride. What can we read into this?
They'll be at the game.
What's that?
The Laval Rocket are all at the game. So.
Yeah, I saw the photo of them in their nice little suits there.
So it won't even be a metro ride. They'll be in the house. So the Canadiens can make an official recall up until 5 p.m. tonight. So I shouldn't they're just going to wait to see, because they haven't officially, I'm going to break it down for fans. It doesn't look good for him to play today.
Yes.
It doesn't look good. But that doesn't mean there's no chance. Okay? And they're waiting to evaluate that. They don't want to give away their hand too quickly in that regard, just like they didn't want to do with the last game.
Exactly.
So what I've heard is don't expect him to play. However, there is an opportunity that he could be in today. My 2 cents, Dovish starts this game and we see where things go, and potentially, there are 3 days, right? The next game, Game 5, is on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, April 30th, right?
Yes.
So there's going to be time for rest. So if the Canadiens feel like Dovish can handle the assignment right now in this game, as he did the second half of Game 3, well, then that will give Montembeault 5 full days of rest before the next game. And I think that would be ideal if the Canadiens feel that it is a very minor injury.
Let's talk about Jakub Dovish and the goaltending factor and how big
I don't know.
it weighs in.
Yeah, I was afraid for sure, but I was excited. Also, I was emotional. I was crying at the end, so it's like I was a mess. But I know my routine. I know I'm a good goalie. I love these moments more than anything.
So there's Jakub Dovish in the aftermath of Friday's Game 3 win. And, he was responsible for stealing points on the road in Nashville, the 1-0 overtime loss to Toronto down the stretch. If I inject my own opinion, Jakub Dovish has sold me. I'm good. I don't look at Jakub Dovish and wonder about, oh, damn, his confidence. Ooh, wild card. I don't know. There's part of me that thinks ignorance is bliss, and this man embraces pressure, doesn't run away from pressure, and I think that plays an advantage. How much does it affect how the team plays? If I tell you, I believe Montembeault was their most consistent, best player in games 1 and 2, and that he's not going to be there for Game 4 tonight, how does that affect how the Canadiens play?
I think, if you go back and look at the tape from Game 3, they played a very conservative game around him, right? There was no dipsy doodling with the puck out of the net. There was no, extra 2 seconds to scan the ice. It was get the puck out, block all the shooting lanes, get into all the passing lanes. In fact, the way that they probably should have played in front of Samuel Montembeault, but you could tell that the team was going a little bit above and beyond defensively to make sure that Dovish got into the game and wasn't being peppered left and right. Other than that 3-on-1 that resulted in the Ovechkin goal, they didn't really do anything to expose Dovish. And I think that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to not necessarily collapse around him, but at least I think, especially in these situations, the center may play a little bit lower in the zone than they usually do, just to make sure that they can clear the garbage and block those shooting lanes.
Now, on the other side, Logan Thompson, who I think if we, again, go back and talk about his performance, how he looked in games 1 and 2 at home, he was a problem. He was on top of his angles. The rebounds were perhaps a little bit of a weak link here, but let's talk about advantages, and let's work with the assumption that Montembeault doesn't play and Thompson doesn't play. It's Dovish versus Lindgren, the battle of the backups in game 4. Yeah. Walk me through 2 points here. Walk me through what that does to Washington, and then walk me through which team has the advantage in the battle of the backups tonight. So let's start with the style of play from the Capitals playing in front of Lindgren. Let's start there.
Yeah, I expect them to try and shut it down. I really expect them to try and like we were talking about the Canadiens collapsing on their goalie. I would not be surprised if the Washington Capitals, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but they're going to play in this kind of style. It's like a guy backed up into a corner. Right. You're going to jump out of that corner swinging. So I expect the Washington Capitals to come out on fire tonight, absolutely on fire, because they need to take control of this game right away, because if it starts going back the other way, they're already short probably, one of their most important defensemen in Faravari, and Jacob Chychrun doesn't look like he's 100%, in my honest opinion. And then you have, a guy coming in cold like Charlie Lindgren in this series. I just think at this point in time, when you look at him play, there's a lot of questions. He didn't end the season really on a high note, right? And I think that's something to keep into consideration. So there are options. There are definitely options for the Canadiens to take advantage of. But I feel like if Washington's going to have any chance in this series, first of all, they need to get the first goal. In this game. They need to get that first goal. And they absolutely need to take possession of the neutral zone. They have to be more aggressive on the Canadiens as they commit their zone entries, because the Canadiens are beating them in the dump and chase game. And I think that was extremely evident. And you have guys, and I think this is the best part for the Canadiens right now, is when you have wingers like an Emil Heineman, like a Josh Anderson, like a Juraj Slafkovsky, that can come in with speed to play the dump and chase game and impose themselves and really kind of, put the pressure on the defense. Well, then that's when they start, coughing up the puck or corralling it along the boards. And what we've seen, one major adjustment that the Canadiens have made over the last 2 games is that their defense, and we saw it on the Cole Caulfield goal, are far more active along the boards than before, right? Before they would back up, and now they're attacking the play. Why? Because when they're playing that dump around game, usually the center, when they would play before, the center would go in front of the net, try to, be there for a bumper shot, try to deflect. No, he's playing a little higher. And you're even seeing it sometimes with Cole Caulfield. He plays a little higher in the zone. And what does that do? That helps the defenseman attack along the boards, because that is what their defense in Washington is doing right now to try and get out of the zone. It's not going to help them against the Canadiens. I think they figured it out at this point, how they're playing. So it's up to the Washington Capitals to adjust. But for them to adjust, my honest opinion, there were elements of the way that Carberry was using them that almost looked like a trap game in Game 3. I don't know if everybody noticed that, but they were playing like 4 at the blue line in zone entries at a certain point. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to be able to play that style with Charlie Lindgren in nets, because again, he only played 2/3 of the game, but Logan Thompson still saved like 3 goals above expected in that game, despite allowing 3 or 4. So it's quite something. So if Charlie Lindgren's going to have any hope, then the team in front of him has got to play a whole lot better than they did on Game 3. Hudson just sitting on the bench. Fantastic.
I love it.
Also, shout out to the Bell Center DJ. Just perfect song choice.
What was that? I couldn't make it out. What was it?
DMX. X go give it to you.
Good ear. I want to talk about Arbor Jackeye because of the comment section on our live show from Saturday. I want to talk about that. But before I get into that, let's talk about what this moment did for the Canadiens' confidence. Did that change the series a little bit? Again, I used the word bully in my opening with you this morning. Yeah. I stand by that choice of wording. And to me, it was an illustration of how much the Canadiens believe they belong now in this series. And so what do you read into what that meant for the confidence of this team ahead of Game 4 tonight?
Yeah, well, they stood up to them. And I think that's the key, right? I feel like there was just a more distinguished pushback from the Montreal Canadiens. And I think they showed like, we are not going to be bullied here, to paraphrase for them. So I think that was done well. It didn't hurt the Canadiens necessarily. And they took Tom Wilson out of the play as well. So, to me, again, we talked about this. If you take, if the trade-off is Josh Anderson versus Tom Wilson, it's a net positive for the Montreal Canadiens with no disrespect to Josh Anderson. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how they continue to do that. Yeah. I absolutely loved. I pointed this out as it was happening. The Hudson Leonard hug. I'm not even joking, guys. I don't know if you see it in the feed, but they found each other.
Yes.
Literally exchanged pleasantries and just held each other and watched the fights as they were happening. We were dying on the media, on the press gallery. It was stupendous. Anyway, one of those moments where once a teammate, always a teammate for life. And obviously when there's going to be a bench brawl, I don't think Lane Hudson is going to be at the center of it, although he was in the World Junior Championships 2 years ago. So anything can happen. All I'm going to say though is the momentum that gave. I think it was key because just before that, the Canadiens had taken the lead. It was 3-2 off that Cole Caulfield goal. So, you have the Washington Capitals. We all see this, like making the message or trying to get, into the head of the goalie or trying to like set up the third period. It didn't work. The Canadiens pushed back. Unfortunately, shortly thereafter, at the start of the third period, Washington tied the game, but the Canadiens pushed back, not through their physicality in the third period, but through their relentless forecheck and their strong play in the neutral zone. And that was capped off by Juraj Slafkovsky, right? Like absolute gorgeous play to set up that give and go with Cole Caulfield. And I thought it was fantastic. So to me, again, that physicality is a great element. It's a strong element to have. But one of the best ways to get Washington to stop hitting you is to make them have to chase you.
Right.
And I think when you're chasing the play, you are less likely to do those bone-crushing, crazy hits because it gets you out of position, right? And if you're in a situation of pressure and panic, you're less likely to cross-check a guy in the face. And I will say, just so people know, the refs did go to the Washington Capitals bench after David Savard was elbowed in the face, and you saw the refs go like this. Motioning to them to like calm down, right? Because there was a boarding hit that they allowed against Lane Hudson, a couple of slashes, Suzuki's phantom slash, and then that elbow, and then all of a sudden, and I don't know if you noticed, but calls started going Montreal's way, right? Like the Newhook penalty, it wasn't his penalty, but the penalty on Newhook, normally would not have been called. Yeah. The cross check on Brendan Gallagher, we've seen far worse. I mean, he took a harder cross check to the face. So, you're starting to see something here where even the refs have caught on, like, we're not allowing this. We're not going to allow this. So although they've missed games, know that the NHL is aware of is seeing what you're seeing, and they've been notified. So I'm very tempted to see if that changes the game, because if it's not for cheap shots, Montreal was more physical, like team toughness, more physical than the Washington Capitals. And I think that was key. Yeah. So if they can just keep that pace going, not be intimidated physically and take the game to them. I saw a comment before lots of rubber on Charlie Lindgren to start the game. I 100% agree. The
Agreed.
Canadiens, to win this game, like we've already said it, Washington's going to come out guns a-blazing. The Canadiens need to match that energy right from the go, sniff it out, take the life right out from them, and continue to just hammer them in the offensive zone.
Totally. And again, I see some of the comments being put up here. Demidov is going to score. Dovish will be great. Well, from your lips to someone's ears, right? Because when we look at betonline.ag, if the Montreal Canadiens find a way to pull out a Game 4 victory today, you're getting the Canadiens plus 320 on a series price right now to win this series. And let me remind you, we're giving away $50, and we're going to deposit that into your BetOnline account. Give us who you think will be the Canadiens' first goal scorer in Game 4 tonight. And we'll do a draw on Monday. We'll announce the winner, and that $50 will be deposited into your BetOnline account. So you have to have an account. It's very fast and very easy to set up, easy deposits, much easier withdrawals, and great customer service at BetOnline. So $50, free money. Give us who you think is the first goal scorer in Game 4 tonight. That's Marco D'Amico. You can follow him at MN D'Amico on this game day, the mother of all game days. It's Habs and Capitals live on TSN 690 at 6:30. Yes, take note of the special start time for Game 4 tonight. And I noticed, obviously, Arbor Jackeye is the hot button issue.
And we talked about it a lot.
In the mind of some, is the reason why the Montreal Canadiens played the way they did and won on Friday night. So let's dig in on the Arbor Jackeye factor. And it's a shame. I don't want to say I'm embarrassed that we're going to dig in on this, but
no, it's a good conversation to have, I find.
Well, listen, like
it allows you to, we get to shed light on other elements, right? And I feel like if we springboard from Arbor Jackeye, it's a great conversation to have with our followers.
But listen, it was such an important win. It was the game of the year. And I don't want to put it on the back of one guy who didn't play 15 minutes, right? But when you look at the reaction, whether it's in social media, whether it's with your friends, with your parents talking about how the Canadiens won that game, what I can't get over is this, okay? So what I can't get over, and I understand fully well the impact Arbor Jackeye has. I think he's a great teammate. I think he's as tough as nails. His resume speaks for itself. He's got all the credibility in the world. But what I can't get over is how the Canadiens played as a team to get into the playoffs, the manner in which they played, how they kind of showed their teeth in the third period of Monday's Game 1, how they were the aggressors in the first period, and then in the third period of Game 2, how they brought more jam to the home rink in Game 3, right? And if I finish my thought on this, and I don't mean this as a disrespectful way to Arbor Jackeye and the value that he brings to the team, okay? But if we go along the timeline of this team with this core, Nick Suzuki at Laval-sur-le-Lac talked about how he thinks they're going to be pretty good, how they want to be in the mix, and their goal is to make the playoffs, okay? And then we go to the Four Nations break. Nick Suzuki's not on the team, but he's in the building. And then he's speaking publicly. This isn't sources say. This is Suzuki speaking publicly about, man, I can't believe the energy in this building. I want to experience that myself on the ice with my Canadiens, right? And then we get into the fact that how they got into the playoffs. And then we talk about the adrenaline flowing. I don't know how you get to the point where the Canadiens played and looked the way they did on Friday because one player was back in the lineup. Like he didn't play in the final 12 games of the regular season. The Canadiens leapfrogged how many teams to get in? How many teams to get in? And I don't want to make this a dumb fest on Arbor Jackeye. He's a good player. He's a great teammate. But this is a team game. This is a team game, Marco. And I like the way he plays, but it's layered. It's very layered. It's not one-dimensional.
I think there's many elements. I think, we were having this discussion yesterday on the episode comment section, a little bit on social media as well. So just to be clear, I think Arbor Jackeye was part of the momentum, right? And I think that's how we're going to have to call this. There was a surge of energy for the Montreal Canadiens. Part of it was brought on by bringing in Arbor Jackeye. Part of it was brought on, a good part of it was brought on by just the sheer energy from the crowd. Part of it was brought on by the fact that the Canadiens tweaked their style in terms of the way that they play a little bit more aggressive on the forecheck. That's a work ethic thing. And then the other aspect is the Canadiens decided to play a generally tougher game. And I don't know that Arbor Jackeye being in the lineup was the reason that Emil Heineman had 5 hits, for example. I don't know that Arbor Jackeye was in the lineup and that's why Lane Hudson played the way he did. What I will say is that there's a psych element to this that sometimes you have to factor in, right? He obviously helped. And I personally think that the best thing Arbor Jackeye did in game 3 was what he didn't do, right? When we saw David Savard get elbowed, he's 5 feet away. There's a penalty coming to Washington. He could have come in and taken the instigator and just started beating Duhaime seamless. He could have, absolutely. And in fact, that's what I think it was Pierre Maguire on the Sick podcast that said, you need a guy that's going to come in, look at the bench and say, you guys do anything, I'm going to take you out. And, that's exactly what Arbor Jackeye didn't do. He didn't take the guy out. In fact, he stayed. And what happened? 5 seconds later, the Nick Suzuki scored on that power play. That maturity, that level of being able to pick your spots, that's what's going to keep Arbor Jackeye in the lineup. That's what's going to make him valuable to the Montreal Canadiens. And when push came to shove, when they were having that brouhaha in front of the net, he was right there in it. So I think it was more of a discrete impact in terms of on ice. But I think there's that psyche element that we have to take into consideration. So obviously, I think he was a factor. But guys, I was in the building. Yeah. I was ready to jump through, to go through a wall. It was energized. I had 4 hours of sleep, 18-hour days. It was what it was. And I 100%, I will, teammates literally mentioned it. 100%. Guys, when the players are asked these questions, I'm in the room, I could tell you these. When the players are asked the question, the media will literally sit there and say, what impact did Arbor Jackeye have for you with this game?
Yes.
What do you expect the players to say? Of course they're going to say he had an impact. I'm not saying they're lying.
They are here for each other.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're lying. I'm not saying they're lying in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that they're strewing the truth. It is part of the truth, absolutely. But you're never going to see a player say, nah, the Bell Center crowd was the reason that we were hyped, not Arbor. It's everything. It's a whole thing. But when you hear the responses, but you don't hear the questions, it's doctored for a reason. Those clips, right? There's a reason for that.
Bro, the perfect example is
the Patrick Laine. Yeah,
Patrick Laine, Alex Ovechkin. That's not what he said. There's more to what he said about what's it mean about playing the grade 8 in this series. Oh, I could care less.
Yeah, but again, so I want to leave that negativity out in saying that no one here is talking that Arbor Jackeye isn't a valuable member, that he shouldn't be in the lineup.
Exactly.
I think, I'm on record. You can go and look at past videos, but my only concern was starting him after 3 weeks of not playing on the road. I didn't feel like that was ideal. Starting him at home with the last change, I think it was very good, effective use of his time. I thought he played a good game, and I look forward to him playing another good game in game 4. And if the Washington Capitals are going to try and play that bully game again, then I feel like guys like Josh Anderson and Arbor Jackeye are going to have to step in, and it's a good card to have, but it's not your ace is all I'm going to say.
I think, you bring up some good points, and, I'm ready for game 4 tonight. I think we're all ready for this massive game. And obviously if this, turns into a 2-2 series, it'll be that much tighter going into Wednesday for game number 5. Now, what I choose to read into game 4's performance, again, is very layered here when we talk about the atmosphere at the Bell Center. And Marco brought up this point on the live stream yesterday about how important the crowd was, how seismic it was. They were ready to go, drowning out Michel Lacroix, getting ready for the anthems, and they never stopped. The other thing for me about that win and performance in game 3, Marco, was the Canadiens were angry. They were aggressive in that game. That edge you need, right? And what about Washington now? What about Washington's attitude going into today. If I like the approach the Canadiens brought with them in their Bell Center debut in the playoffs, what about the way the game was officiated? Some liberties, some chintzy calls. Again, athletes looking for a reason to get angry, to get upset, to be edgy into a game. What do you make of the Capitals having a little bit of an attitude, getting pushed around by the Canadiens in bits and spurts on Friday? What version of the Capitals are we going to expect to watch at 6:30 tonight?
You're going to see a version of the Capitals akin to what we saw in Game 1 in Washington. They're going to come in and just hit everything that moves, try to destabilize the Canadiens, try to, get the crowd out of it early, just so that it's not, and it's basically that. They're going to, if they could replicate the way that they started Game 1, getting that, Game 3, where they got the first goal, and just not allow the Canadiens to score a backbreaker at the end of the first period, then that would be a win for them, because that would get the crowd out of it, at least temporarily. And then, when you look at what it is that they'd like to do, like if Alexis Protas joins in, then, Beauvillier goes down, I believe, to the third line. And I think at that point you have more balanced lines. It'll be interesting to see who comes out for the Caps at that point, but it's very interesting to me to see how they're going to adapt. And with the Canadiens having the last change, Martin St. Louis, I think one of the most peculiar, interesting things that he does is matching up his top line against Washington's top line almost every shift. And instead allowing the Gallagher line to pick apart the Dubois line, I find that to be, an interesting choice. And it worked for the Canadiens in Game 3. So I think, we're going to have to see how Washington responds. But a team that would come out guns a-blazing like that, it's because the longer this series goes, the worse it is for them. The worse it's going to be. And I'll give you a couple of reasons. The way that Thompson went down, okay?
Yeah.
His knee has already been something that bothered him. It kept him out for the season. He also got cross-checked to the head.
Right.
And that resulted, that could have resulted in a potential concussion as well. If he is concussed, he can't come back to play before 7 days, according to the NHL. So he would basically be out for the rest of the series.
Well, looky here, Mr. D'Amico. Look who that is. That's at practice 11 minutes ago at the skate. And that's Logan Thompson getting his reps in. What do we make of that now?
I'd love to see because if he does play, he's not playing at 100%. Definitely not be playing at 100%. I also think those are mind games being played by the Washington Capitals. If he is good to go, then let's see what happens. But I saw him leave that game. Couldn't put pressure on his leg. You even see him kind of the way he leaned on his left knee there, the way he bent down.
Look at that.
He's pushing off with his right skate. So that's very interesting to me.
That's, by the way, I just want to give some credit. That's Patrick Friolet covering the Canadiens.
Fantastic work at RDS.
Capital skate from RDS. And so that's where that was from. That was from 9:50 this morning. So I was able to grab that and put that up here on the live stream pretty quick here. So I haven't seen anything yet. Just trying to, do multiple things.
Canadiens have officially called up Caden Primo, by the way.
Is that now official?
Official. Just went through the wire.
So there you go. So Caden Primo has been called up. So that more or less, there's no mind games, no trickery here. It's not going to be Shevada Fists backing up Jakob Dovish. It's going to be Caden Primo. That's the elementary read of this, correct?
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I don't think. Well, first of all, it's also it also goes from the idea that he's potentially going to be available. The Canadiens the Canadiens can call up whoever they want at this point, right? Because they left basically the rule with the NHL is if you don't use up all of your 4 call-ups between the trade deadline and the end of the season, then you can call up whoever you want in the playoffs. So they could have him on the roster. There's no roster limit at this point, but dressing him is a whole different story.
Totally.
So if they don't dress him, it's fine. You can keep him on the roster just in case. But, this isn't to say that Samuel Montembeault isn't playing, although the signs do point to that. The Canadiens are still evaluating him today to see if he can get in. But my take, I think you're going to see Dovish, Primo as the two goalies.
Okay. And again, more, let me see if I could put this up here. More from Logan Thompson at practice. There he is, Marco. You could see him. Sorry if I put this up here in a second here. My apologies for just trying to get this done here. There's Logan Thompson at the skate. Marco, you were talking about his knee before?
Yeah.
There he is, flexing, stretchy. Who doesn't love a good stretch? I love a good stretch.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think he's going to play, Marco.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't think he's at 100%, and I think the Canadiens need to take full advantage of that.
I mean,
one of the other
you do the same though. Like Charlie Lindgren's winless in his career in the playoffs. Like, give me 80% Logan Thompson. No,
I don't think he's at 80%. To be honest with you,
that was just a number I pulled.
When we previewed the series,
yeah,
I said that the Canadiens would have to be mindful of that knee injury that he had and get him to move laterally. Exactly. So the thing to keep into consideration, Eric Engels just tweeted that before game days, when he was the starter, he would be available to the media after practice. Right. Today, he is unavailable for the media because he has not been cleared yet. So he's not yet cleared to play by team doctors. He's just practicing and testing it out. So it's not yet confirmed. It's not yet confirmed that he's going to play. But if I'm the Washington Capitals, I personally, my 2 cents, if you want to win a cup, if you want to go far, then I would not over chance it, at this point. I would not over chance it because then he risks truly aggravating the injury. And then if you have to ride Charlie Lindgren and pray that you're going to get deep in the playoffs, like, good luck. I don't think you're going to be able to fight a guy like, or not a guy, but a team like the Carolina Hurricanes if you don't have your number one goalie, if you get by the Montreal Canadiens. So to me, play it safe. Personally, if I was Carberry, I would put in Lindgren for this game. And the same thing that we talked about for Montembeault, where he would get 5 days off, same applies to Logan Thompson.
Yeah.
If he can come and be 80% with no risk of aggravation through rest by Wednesday in Washington, then you stand a better chance of being able to take the series long term. But if you go too hard too quick, we've seen it in Montreal with players that come back too early. It could result in some pretty devastating consequences in the short and long term.
And again, if you're just jumping on here, welcome. Thank you. Hit that like and subscribe button. And the expectation is, as it's being reported in the last 30 minutes, Caden Primo expected to be backing up Jakub Dovish for Game 4 tonight, live from the Bell Center. Marco D'Amico will be in the building. Marco, you taking the Metro there again?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would never drive downtown. I would never drive into downtown for a game.
Yeah.
So it's good that the Bell Center is accessible. And when the REM kicks in, I think it's going to be accessible for everyone, which is great.
No kidding.
So, I think that it's, like you can look at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. That's completely, it's only got 2 lanes to get into the parking lot, and it takes 3 hours just to get out of there. Well, at least with the Bell Center, everybody can get in. But I love just, being around in the Metro, watching the fans get excited as they go up the escalators. Like, it's always been a fun time for me.
It's the best.
Yeah. So the game tonight, I expect it to be one level above what it was on Friday, because the Canadiens fans had passion in Game 1, Game 3, but now I think they have hope, and that is one heck of a drug. When you have hope and you're going to the playoffs, it gets even harder, because now there's something there, like, we were talking about Canadians playing with house money before. Now you can smell blood.
Yeah. And
I think as a fan, that just gets them like one level a little bit more aggressive. And if the Canadiens start with the lead, man, then another level. And so that exponentially builds up and it becomes the X factor, truly makes them the sixth player on the ice.
Correct.
And it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But I don't discount the impact that the Bell Center has. Spoke to a couple of third party folks, not related to the Canadiens or the Capitals, who found it absolutely magical, the impact that the Bell Center had. So I expect it to be just as well.
Your boy Frank Saravalli, 6 minutes ago, reporting Logan Thompson, as we've been talking about here in net at the morning skate, Sam Montembeault is officially a game time decision and not ruled out yet. And we spoke about as Saravalli writing on Twitter this morning that the expectation there is if Monty can't go, Primo, who was just recalled to back up Jakub Dovish, that's how it would go. So again, similar to what we kind of read into yesterday, getting ready for Friday's game 3, just a lot of things going in my mind simultaneously here, trying to keep everything on the rails. So I apologize for a couple of flubs there, but like we read correctly when MSL was like, hey, listen, we're going to have a lot of players in the warm-up more than usual. This is all tactics, right, at this time of year. And even MSL in between games, did he not say he loves the gamemanship with Carberry playing back and forth? Like this guy, these competitors, there's no off switch with MSL. Like he's just as fiery behind the bench, is he not, Marco?
Yeah, and I think, regarding Thompson, from what I'm hearing, also a game time decision.
Yes.
But we'll see. He may get cleared. We'll see. But as of right now, not yet cleared by Washington doctors. So we'll see what happens. But again, having him there, honestly, that it's Charlie Lindgren or Logan Thompson.
Yeah.
The Canadiens just have to keep doing what they were doing. And if there is even a slight risk that they're forcing Thompson to play through an injury,
yes.
I'm not saying that you need to go there and cross-check him in the face. All I'm saying is get him to move laterally, get him to overcommit, get him to have to play aggressively, because it's in those instances that goalies will aggravate injuries. And I'm not saying this to be to hope for an injury for Logan Thompson, but if you are the Montreal Canadiens, that is the game plan. That should be the game plan.
What about the punch? I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the punch that Washington's going to bring to the table. And with Arbor Jackeye playing, I mean,
he has to be disciplined. Has to be disciplined. And I think that's a message that Martin St. Louis has sent significantly by barely playing him in the month of April. Yeah. He's got to be disciplined. And listen, if David Savard getting elbowed in the face didn't get Arbor Jackeye to drop the gloves, I'm very curious to see what does.
Well, look, here's 72 is like right here. 72 is like right where these referees are.
Yeah.
Look, there he is, right there, 72.
Yeah, he's
there's 72.
He's just pushing around. He's just pushing guys around. He's not actually fighting. He's just grabbing his man, which is what you do in these kinds of skirmishes. It's fine.
Marco, I love look at this.
Yeah,
that's hockey, baby. That's hockey, baby.
You can't tell me that there's there's no other playoffs format that is as entertaining as this in terms of just comedic value.
Look, there he is there again. You could see him.
But he's there. He's the sheriff. He's just grabbing guys. I think he grabbed 2 guys at a certain point, which is basically his calling card at this point. One of the elements I'm going to just kind of point to is if they get to a point where someone on the Washington Capitals that plays a significant role wants to go, and it's not, he's not doing anything in a sense that he's doing a sense that, he's not instigating that fight. As long as it's, face-off drop fight or mutually agreed to fight, and he's able to take out a player, and by take out, I mean take out of the game by in the penalty box, not the knees. If he's able to take out a player and he's a guy that's playing 10 to 12 minutes, and you're taking out a guy that's, a power play guy or a guy that they would play on 4-on-4 or a top 6 presence, and you take him out for 5+ minutes, then that's also a strategic play where you can at one time, hold your own and impose your physicality on the opposition, and at the same time strategically assist your team from a matchup perspective, because and again, no disrespect to Jackeye, but he's a 6th defenseman. If you're taking out a top 4 defenseman on the other end or a top 6 forward, that's a net positive. And that's where the Canadians can use him. And that's where he would need to pick his spots. So like when we saw Brandon Duhaime elbow David Savard, there was, the benefit, the cost benefit would have been a wash. And then they would have lost that power play. So that wasn't a good opportunity. But say Tom Wilson did that, then it would make sense to try and drop the gloves, take the 4-on-4 and get Wilson out of the game for 5+ minutes.
Can you answer this
question?
Which
Josh Anderson did, by the way, in that bench brawl.
Can you answer this from Jesper as it relates to E-Bugs and Caden Primo and rosters?
Yes. Yes, they could. So, for example, the Washington Capitals, I forget his name, and if I don't look at the screen, I'm going to get yelled at. But if the Washington Capitals have their 3rd string goalie with them, so yesterday or in Game 3, if any of the other goalies would have been injured, if anything would have happened to Jakub Dovish, then Shevchevich would have come in for the Canadians. But if something would have happened to Charlie Lindgren, they had their 3rd string goalie in the house that went and got dressed and was ready just in case. So it wouldn't have been a problem. The E-Bug would have been there for the Canadians because you can call up a 3rd goalie, and most teams do. The Canadians chose not to, simply because Connor Hughes is injured in Laval, and they wanted 2 healthy goalies to start the playoffs. And obviously, I don't think they were expecting anything to happen to Sam Montembeault. But when you're at home, it's less of a big deal. When they go on the road, even if Montembeault is good and ready to be clear that day, I still wouldn't be surprised if they traveled to Washington with Caden Primo.
Nice to see our friend Karim. Karim back in the chat, massive Canadians fan. Karim, nice to see you again. Karim, one of the very, very early supporters. I'm very good at my memory is very good with names and faces because, bro, I was expert level when I was a boy. I loved collecting hockey cards and baseball cards too. And I was very, very good at opening a pack of cards and going, got it, need it. Like I had instant recall. My memory was so good of what cards I had versus what cards I needed. And when I see OGs of the show still here months later after this project got launched off the ground, and I see Karim there, takes me back to my childhood. Said, oh, need him. I've missed Karim, and so nice to see Karim back in the live chat. We're up to 870 people watching live on this Sunday morning on game day.
Incredible.
Canadians and Capitals coming up at 6:30 live on TSN 690. And as the audience continues to grow, don't forget, we're giving away free money today. We're giving away
TSN 690.
What's that?
What's on TSN 690?
What did I say?
You said TSN 690. What's on TSN 690?
The Canadians game tonight.
Oh, right, of course.
30. And I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Victor's calling it, right? It's Victor and PJ?
Victor.
Or not PJ, wow.
And JP O'Connor.
JP, right, not PJ.
Correct. And PJ will be on Auntie Shaun maybe after the game today. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of people, I missed the RDS. I missed the TSN calls for sure. But we've got good friends over at TVA doing their thing. But in the meantime, with 870 people watching us live now, let me remind you that we're giving away free money. We're giving you $50. And all you have to do is it's pretty simple. You go to betonline.ag, you sign up, and you write in the comments, who do you think is scoring first for the Canadians tonight? That's it. And if you're lucky enough to nail it, we're going to pull your name from those that correctly guessed it. So if we get like 4 Nick Suzuki's, for example, and Nick Suzuki scores and 4 people in the chat said, I think Suzuki scores the first goal, Marco's going to use his big brain there and he's going to create some sort of formula. And then we're going to pick at random a lucky winner and you're going to get $50 deposited into your account. It's that simple, and it's free to enter, and it takes no time, and it's super easy. The best customer service group in the business. They've been around for 2+ decades, a trusted name in the space where you can have some fun with the game today as the Montreal Canadiens continue to be slight home underdogs. The odds actually dropped there a little bit from where we were yesterday. How awesome was this? And I'm glad our boy Ethan brought this up, Marco. How about Carey Price with the caption of team? With the photo of Dovish and Monty hugging. Like, Carey Price, man, everyone's still got a little soft spot for old number 31, huh?
My mother called me yesterday
Yeah,
Just,
what she wants?
He's coming back. I'm telling you, Carey
No.
Price is coming back.
Is that how your mom sounds though?
Yes, it is.
Does she speak to you in Italian or English when she said that?
English. She was born here.
Okay. Yeah.
She was born here, but
Oh, okay.
usually I'll get sworn at in French, but I'll get spoken to in English. And then, as I explained to her, Carey Price is on the other side of the continent.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, it would be, next level to have Carey Price cameo in the middle of a game like that. They showed Elise Béliveau at the game on Friday, and oh my God, the crowd go nuts.
Yeah.
So I could just imagine if as we were walking to the press gallery elevators just before you take a right, and it's the La Chambre des Anciens, so the what would you call it, the legends room, where all the former players will go.
Exactly. Yeah.
That room was a who's who of legends for the Montreal Canadiens.
Dude, I used to love when I used to go to the Bell Center in the media room on the St. Antoine entrance. I'd walk up the long staircase.
That's exactly
there,
it. That's exactly
and then
it.
you walk through the door, and right to your right, the first door on your right, more or less, is that room.
That's it.
And I used to walk so slowly past it. I'd be like, "Oh, who's in? Oh, Stefan Richier's in there. Oh, cool."
Yeah. My dad. So, for example, my dad's favorite player growing up was Bob Gainey, hence the 23 retirement jersey up there.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just see him walk by, and you're just you're not supposed to be starstruck as a journalist, but you just can't. It's a hockey legend regardless. So you're always just wow. There was a lot of those. There was a lot of legends in the house, and I hope they show more of those legends because it just gets the crowd in it. The players love it. There was a period in time where there wasn't much of a connection with a lot of the alumni. That's the word I was looking for. The alumni on the team. Now it seems to be a whole lot tighter knit, and they're more involved with the team. And I feel like just having them around to guide them, to encourage them, and then to have them with the crowd, I think just energizes them to another level.
Yeah. This was, again, more class.
Yes, she is.
Dude,
yes, she is.
Awesome. When they show Madame Béliveau up on the Jumbotron, of course, the empty seat for her legendary husband and lifelong partner, number 4, Le Gros Bill, the great Jean Béliveau, who we lost, sadly, years ago, but his beloved, Elise Béliveau, still goes to the games, was there Friday night. And I don't know. I'm born and raised in this market. The Montreal Canadiens are my team. They will always be my team. My dad's favorite player was Yvon Cournoyer. And when I saw Mrs. Béliveau there and the crowd's reaction and appreciation, I loved it. I'm a sucker for that.
It was fantastic.
It
was really
part
good.
Of the reason, why it's so hard to replicate what the Canadiens brand means. And even Toronto, like any of the original 6, Montreal is just so unique for so many reasons.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but if Wendell Clark's wife is shown on the Jumbotron, I don't know that Toronto is going to give her a standing like Montreal gave Elise Béliveau.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Well, say hi to Captain Kirk then.
Love Kirk. Kirk is work, baby.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things to bring back up to the, as we talk about tonight's game.
Yeah.
So both Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren left the ice together. So the Washington Capitals are intentionally playing games here, folks. They are intentionally playing the guessing game.
Yeah.
Both goalies are not available. From what I'm being told by folks on the ground, both goalies are not available for comment at this point.
Yeah.
The team hasn't cleared Thompson yet.
No.
Especially, for example, if it's a concussion, he can't play. If it's ruled a concussion, then he cannot, according to the rules, play immediately.
Why would they let him on the ice though? Why?
He's allowed to practice. You're allowed to practice with no contact. That's fine. And the goalie doesn't take any contact. So, and I don't know. I have to go and get this confirmed. But I'm not sure. No, Saku Koivu is not in the area.
No.
If you look at the way he was practicing, it didn't look like he was taking shots. And that's what I want to go and confirm. Was he taking shots? Because that's a clear indicator. If he wasn't taking shots and he was just stretching and doing some behind the net drills, that's going to be telling. However, if it's not a concussion, and I think this is key, right? This helps you in this mind games, because I think this is the reason why Washington's playing this game. Yeah. If he cannot, if he can play today, then the injury was not a concussion. You know that the injury was a lower body injury, and you saw the way his knee buckled after he got hit by Strome. I'd be very interested. And I saw a couple of sharp eye and like-minded folks in the chat say, get him to move laterally. I wholeheartedly agree. The Canadiens are going to have to play the exact same way they played in that third period, where they made goalies move. They, the lateral left, right, the push off. That's usually when you're going to be able to catch a goalie that is being overworked by their team or made to play injured. So
fair.
Very interesting concept. One other thing that I wanted to bring up, that second line of Alex Newhook, Ivan Demidov, and Jake Evans.
Yeah.
I think is going to be even more vital. I think, we talked about it yesterday where I expect Ivan Demidov to take a game, his level up for this game. Getting those puck touches on the power play. How good was that first power play to watch?
Huge.
Getting that mojo going, getting him implicated physically. You saw him. It's very good to see. I think there are some more conservative hockey fans that believe that it's a little bit difficult to be a player coming out of the KHL and play that kind of physical game. What I've liked is that he hasn't backed down from it whatsoever. Going into the corners, you see him growing every period, and I think that's correct. The key. One of the things that makes Ivan Demidov as a young prospect, because he still is, let's call a spade here.
For sure, exactly.
But one of the things that makes him one of the things that has so many people sold on him is his elite hockey IQ. He can pick up on the game and find a way to exploit the game more and more as it goes on. And that is elite hockey sense. You know who else has that quality? Lane Hudson. And he did exactly that in game 3. We talked about it, defensemen activating from the point. They're learning. They're all getting better as the games go on. Juraj Slafkovsky, we talked about this already, had the best game of his career on game 3. In my honest, the most complete game of his career in game 3. My 2 cents. And so I expect Ivan Demidov to, as the Washington Capitals try to be even more aggressive on the top line, as you see absolute domination, as they try to be more aggressive on that top line, I think Ivan Demidov is going to have the room and the opportunity to further express himself on the ice. And I'm just very curious to see how he does.
Bro, I'm on point with the video and the graphics today. Like getting them on the screen super fast today. We're getting that Logan Thompson stuff. So I want to talk with you.
Wow, we're at 907. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, I put the graphic up and we just lost 7 people. We're at 900 now. Don't forget, we're giving away $50 thanks to Betonline. Name us the first goal scorer for the Canadiens tonight. Oh, thank you, Keats. Keats has been helping us update us today. Yeah. The latest from Eric Ingles there, Marco.
Yeah, I got a text message before where the expectation is Dovish is starting.
So it looks like Jakub Dovish is going to get the start here based on a variety of reports. Obviously, the goaltending is now leapfrogged the biggest X factor, okay? The biggest X factor is going to be the goaltending. But beyond that, look at this. So this is the expected goal for share from Friday's 6-3 win to get the Canadiens their first win in this series. Who's the X factor here? Who needs to have a carbon copy performance to allow the Canadiens to be competitive here? Marco, walk me through this list. Who needs to have this carbon copy tonight?
Lane Hudson. My 2 cents. Lane Hudson. Yeah. I think when he is on the ice, I'm sorry, but an 86% expected goals differential. For those that aren't familiar with these advanced stats, let me just break this down for you.
Yeah.
That score is based off of 100%. Lane Hudson was on when Lane Hudson was on the ice, there was an 86% chance that the Canadiens were going to be able to score.
Yeah.
Or versus be scored against. Okay. Just to give you to simplify the stat as quickly as possible. Correct. That is insane for a rookie in the NHL. That is all world performance. So if he can replicate that again, then the Montreal Canadiens will be absolutely golden because he played 24 minutes. That's stupendous. But with the one player, if we go back to that stat, the one player that I feel it will be a detrimental make or break if Mike Matheson can have a 63% differential on the ice, limit the bobbling, limit the over skating, and just play a safe game like he did for most, not all, obviously not without fault, most of the second period, in game 4. I think, with the way that Alexander Carrier, who has been, in my opinion, the most complete defenseman since the start of the series, I think that those two can really kind of help to shut down some of the more dangerous elements of the Washington Capitals. So if the Canadiens defense can hold, I have a feeling that the Canadiens offense is, they'll be able to do their thing.
What about Alex Carrier and his job and obviously game 3 at home, the hometown boy scoring a goal in his Canadiens playoff debut.
You see, it wasn't even the offense that impressed me. It was his ability to take those checks, right? Like, because a lot of the times you're like, he's a small defenseman. He gets hit all the time. Yeah, but he gets back up. Or he'll take the hit to make a play, and he'll get back up and get right into the play. Like, he's not letting it get to him in any way, shape, or form. And really, it's not affecting his play. His game has not changed in accordance to that. So I think in that regard, I think it helps that he's not intimidated whatsoever. And I think on the flip side, I think the other element that really helps him is that when he's in the offensive zone, he's making the smart plays. Yeah. He's not just throwing it into a crowd. He's not just, corralling it around. He's scanning the ice. He's looking for the open man, taking shots where he needs to take shots. And I feel like he's been a really good, a fantastic pickup for them this year. You gotta wonder where that defensive core would be without him right now. And at the same time, I feel like he calms the play for a guy like Mike Matheson, who sometimes will make, the odd turnover here or there. I mean, in some cases it's less odd and more frequent. But in game 3, it was more the odd turnover. And Alex Carrier was there in an event where anything bad happened. So I think that combination works well. I'd like to see them play maybe a little less minutes, but in the playoffs, it's very common for coaches to lean on their top 2 pairs. So and especially with the way that David Savard played in game 3, I totally understand them shortening the bench.
So let's talk about what we think is going to happen ultimately in this game tonight. Puck drops at 6:30, and you can watch it wherever you like to watch your playoff hockey. And of course, hopefully you listen to it live on TSN 690 tonight. So let's end it with some of the odds ahead of the game tonight, if you don't mind, please. And again, we're giving away $50. Name us the first Canadiens goal scorer for the game tonight. Again, 6:30. The action gets underway at 1 o'clock. Winnipeg and St. Louis. Marco, you got to take on this game. The Blues, home underdogs tonight. Does Winnipeg take a little bit of a stranglehold series at 1 o'clock today, you think?
Well, they have no choice but to bounce back heavy, because if they lose this game after the way that they were embarrassed the last game, I don't know that this goes well. So I fully expect Winnipeg to come in heavy and hard and play that physical game and try to wear down the St. Louis Blues. Yeah. So I if it were my money, I'd probably say the St. Louis Blues have their work cut out for them.
Now, as far as it's concerned, there you can see the odds for the Montreal Canadiens game today. And I like the Montreal Canadiens. I like Jakob Dovish. It'll be fascinating to see what happens. Does Charlie Lindgren get the start or not? He finished the regular season with 896 save percentage. So if Montreal continues, Marco, to put the shots and the volume and the traffic that they've done, I believe strongly they are going to score goals. I like Montreal to take care of business. I like them a lot to take care of business tonight and win this game, and then get you back into Washington for game 5. And now we go to a best of 3. Give me your take on how you think this game plays out. High scoring, low scoring, home team, road team. What do you got for me today?
Oh dear. So David Savard is not on the ice for practice.
Okay.
Just to give you that idea. Jaden Struble is, so we'll see where things go with that. But listen, if Logan Thompson plays, then it's a different ball game for me.
Agreed.
But if he plays, then as we discussed, it wasn't a concussion, it was a knee injury. And that opens up the door. So I would give the Canadiens a slight favorite here to squeak in. They're going to have to make sure that those chances, those bounces start going their way. So we'll see what happens. But I think, if Washington's playing mind games now, if Washington's trying to keep the Canadiens guessing, the Canadiens have effectively gotten into Washington's head, because you only ever do that. You only start playing games when you don't want to give any possible advantage to the opponent, and that's because you respect the opponent and you're aware of the risk of giving too much away could have on your team.
Well said. And a reminder now, it takes 2 seconds. It's easy, it's convenient, and it's hassle-free across the board. $50. Name the Canadiens' first goal scorer today. We'll do the draw Monday, and we'll slide that $50 right into your account. No strings attached. It's that easy, free to sign up, and very convenient. The best customer service group in the business. So make sure you put it in those comments. You want a chance at winning free money on this show? We'll hook you up. Just name us the first Canadiens goal scorer today. Sign up with Betonline so you have your account number, because we're going to need your account number to deposit the money into your account, okay? Have fun with the game tonight. Marco's going to be in the building. Make sure you follow him on social media for up-to-the-minute updates. If I get it, life gets in the way, kids, wife, parents, I get it. There's a chance maybe you're not going to be able to sit down and watch the whole game. You can follow along with Marco on Twitter and have some fun with the game tonight, and good luck. Can't wait to give away the $50 tomorrow, and we'll be here tomorrow live to recap Game 4 tonight. Go Habs, go. Marco, enjoy the game tonight. Have fun at the building, and looking forward to the reaction tomorrow morning.
Yeah, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., everybody. Have yourselves a good one, and hopefully we have a nice tied series.
Are you ending the stream?